George Kilpatrick, inspiration for the nation, celebrating people we feel good about. So I was talking to Tyrone Dixon, and he said, when you going to get me on inspiration for the nation? I said, well, when you're ready, brother.
It's been a while, GK.
Yes, it's been a minute. So he has a couple of things he's doing. He's got the Quality of Love podcast. When can they hear that?
Each and every Wednesday, episodes drop first thing in the morning, 5 a.m. each and every Wednesday.
5 a.m. on Wednesday. So the Quality of Love podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Of course, he is the director of diversity, equity, inclusion at Elmcrest Children's Center. And of course, he does consulting through Arose Through Concrete.
Yes,
and
sir.
I'm so excited to have you here. So tell me about this, what you've been doing and what you have learned on your journey talking about love and diversity.
All of those things tie in together, man. It's all about relationships. Real quick before I hop into that, GK, I just realized this is my first time on Inspiration for the Nation.
Yes.
It was 2 weeks before my first daughter was born. Was the actual first time I visited on. My first daughter is 4 years old now.
Really?
Yeah. So it's been a little minute. Yeah,
now you have another. Now don't you have two? Because I know you've been posting about your babies. So
yes.
2 daughters.
Yep, 2 daughters. One is 4 and the other is 2. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And your lovely bride. I know it's a joy. And as a dad of 3 daughters, I know exactly how that is.
Listen, man, I'm gonna have to tap into you for some advice later on. Just know that.
Listen, I got through it, man. The youngest is 21.
Ooh, listen, brother. That's a clap on the air for you right there, man. Because boy, it's definitely fun. It's fun though. But getting back to the main thing, I guess I would say for sure, it's been an interesting journey for sure since the last time I've been on the show. Several things have gone on. I've expanded my relationship coaching business, which has been phenomenal. I've also, like you said, recently became the very first director of diversity, equity, and inclusion at Elmcrest Children's Center. So both of those are huge things. And as we've been talking, and as I've been learning and growing and evolving as a man, what I've realized, George, is that really, and I say this a lot on my podcast, the quality of love that you have in your life determines the quality of your life, right? So I say that to say the quality of people that you have in your life really does determine your outlook on life, man. So I've been trying to preach that and trying to tell people a lot lately to just be real mindful about who you keep in your circle and the people you allow access to your energy to.
Stop right there. The people who you allow access to your energy.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Say more about that, because I'm gonna say something this week. I had a negative energy experience this week, and it came out of the blue, bro. Came out of the blue, and and also it was vague. Okay.
Like, so I already know it. I know how that is.
And so I'm like, So there's a lot to that. And this is in real time. And I wanted to say something about that because vibrational energy. And then I just saw a quote today as well that talked about frequency. And you just mentioned about who you allow to be in your energy field, and why allow people, like there's a force field. You could have a force field of positivity,
100%, 100%.
And why allow people with negative energy to penetrate the force field that you have created for yourself? So talk about that.
Absolutely. It's sometimes it can, and I get those moments too. So let me just throw that out there in a moment of transparency, where sometimes it's just part of our subconscious, right, George? We're going along in our day and we see something that just completely throws our energy off, or we hear something from somebody that's extremely negative, especially when we're sharing an idea or something that's really important to us, right? When we're sharing it with people we love or people that we consider quote unquote in our circle, we're expecting to hear positive things from it. And when we don't hear positive things, right, that's where we internalize that, whether it's on a subconscious level or a conscious level. We internalize that, and that in long term affects our energy. So that's why, again, I've been really preaching that. Make sure you're mindful of the people you allow access to your energy, because the smallest things can down the line affect you and impact you in ways that you may never recover, to be frank.
So you started a relationship coaching business. Mm-hmm. Why and how did you do that?
I actually fell into it originally when I started at Rose Through Concrete. It was centered around youth, so working with the youth. That was my main thing. I still love working with the youth. It came from a previous place of employment, right? I was working with youth, young men, ages 12 to about 18. And what I found was that these kids were considered bad and considered negative, and it was just a whole bunch of negative things said about these kids. But as I started working with them, George, I'm like, these are some of the best kids you'll ever meet in your life, right? They were like, I kid you not, George. I say this all the time. There were kids that could draw better than artists that I went to school with. There were kids that could play basketball better than kids I went to school with that went on to get basketball scholarships. So I realized that it really didn't. It was about the environment in which the kids were in, right? So that was the first kind of epiphany that I had to start a Rose Through Concrete. But then as I started to Rose Through Concrete, what I realized, George, is a lot of people's problems had to do with their relationships and the people that, again, as we talk about, they allowed into their energy field and allowed into their realm. And once I realized that, I'm like, oh, I'm going to double down on the relationship thing. And it's brought me quite a bit of success. So I'm very fortunate and blessed to have ventured down, they call it a pivot now, pivoted down into the relationship avenue.
All right. So what made you do that?
Pivot down the relationship again. That there was a point in time in which I worked with my first 5 clients, I would say, as I started a Rose Through Concrete consulting and did one-on-one work. My first 5 clients all had issues pertaining to their relationship. So whether it was a guy or a girl in their life that really took their thoughts away, or took their energy away from them, or took their energy in a direction really that it didn't need to be. And as I started to see these patterns, I'm like, okay, there has to be something more to people's quality of life and their relationships. There has to be a correlation between those two things. And as I started to do more research, my research came out to be true. And I'm like, okay, so this is what I want to do. And ultimately, I really think it's my purpose. It's my passion, and I enjoy it.
So talking with Tyrone Dixon, the Quality of Love podcast, among other things that he's doing. And so in this relationship conversations, right? And you talked about energy. Why do we, here's my relationship question for you. Why do we allow people who have negative energy, why do we stay in those relationships or situations with these people? What have you seen or observed in your time working with couples or working with people talking about relationships?
Absolutely. A lot of it ties to not knowing better, right? Because to know better is to truly do better, George. And then on the other side of that, right, is that once you're awakened to the negative behaviors that are being displayed, or the narcissistic behaviors that are being displayed in a relationship, it's like, oh, okay, this isn't normal. Like, let me get away from this person and find something healthy, and find something that is more of a high vibration in a relationship. But then there's the other aspect of it too that I'm realizing more and more too, George, and that's fear. Frankly, it's fear, right? What happens if I leave this person, or what happens if I leave this situation? What's on the other side? Because I've never seen that, right? I've never seen that other side, or I've never seen what a healthy relationship looks like. So what does that look like? And if I'm being transparent again, a lot of people that I won't say a lot, a few people that I've helped in relationships went back to the negative relationships because they were not comfortable being in a safe environment or being treated safe. They were used to abuse. They were used to being verbally abused, or even in some cases physically abused. So to be in a safe environment brought about just as much fear as being in that environment in which it was unpredictable and they were walking on eggshells.
Now, this is also certainly an area of interest and expertise that I have, especially around healthy relationships and recidivism and people going back. And we should tell people that, we always get this question, why didn't that person leave the abusive relationship? And you named it, it actually takes, and this is the study, this is an actual fact, 6 to 8 times for someone to successfully leave a relationship. In other words, for those of you who are listening and wondering, why that person who you've been trying to get out of that situation, it takes 6 to 8 times to get out of it. And Tyrone just said it straight up, where somebody gets out into a healthy situation, but like a boomerang, gets drawn back into it. And let me tell you, but it's not that simple. And you know why? Because the situation that they left wasn't all bad all the time. And so what happens is they think in their mind or convince themselves that all the sweet moments will outweigh all the negativity that's certainly going to be associated with that. But let me just give you into the mindset of the person who is abusing you in that relationship. They understand the power dynamic. And so, you shaking your head, Tyrone, talk about that.
Got to. That's as, especially when we talk about narcissistic individuals, because that's my big thing, man. People that display narcissistic behaviors in relationship, they're quote unquote master manipulators, right? And that's what we don't realize as people that are in those relationships. It's like we're looking for the brighter day, not knowing that those people will dangle a carrot, for lack of better word, in front of us, making us think that there's going to be a brighter day, when in reality, they're showing you exactly who they are.
So tell me what you mean by narcissistic, because it means a lot of different. Well, what I would say is that it's people who are only about themselves and their needs in a relationship, and you're not even on the radar for taking care of that business. How would you describe what you mean by that, and how that shows up, and how to recognize it, right? Because a lot of times it doesn't look like that's what it is.
Yes. Which is, I love, again, thank you for you're a master segueing right into that, George. What happens is, in a lot of cases, people who are narcissists are very good at manipulating people, right? So what they'll do is, on the front end, they'll show you a different person, or they'll wear what's called a mask nowadays, right? So they'll be charming. They'll be essentially anything that you think that you would want out of a relationship. And then once your guards are down, that's when the narcissist really kind of turns on their real behavior. And to me, when I say a narcissist within a relationship, I'm not talking about anybody that's diagnosed with narcissistic behavior, but narcissist within a relationship to me means someone who's, just like you said, extremely self-absorbed, right? Only thinking about themselves, only care about their needs within the relationship, but also puts you down, right? They make sure you know that ultimately the relationship is their way or the highway, right? So when you feel like your needs might be met, or when you're feeling like, okay, this person might meet your needs down the line, they have no interest in doing that at all. The other key piece to me about narcissists that I've noticed over time is that they try to isolate you away from your family and your social support network. So if you have a family and friends that you connect with, they'll make you codependent upon them and keep you away from the people that'll tell you right from wrong.
I hope that helps somebody, because somebody's in a situation right now, right? And so reminding you that you don't have to be in a situation. In the work that I do, we hear a lot of it has to do with how I'm feeling in the relationship at that particular time. And so the other person, I know how I'm feeling in this relationship, but the other person, when I'm with them, I'm not feeling my best. And then they make me think that it's me, but it's really them, and how I'm feeling about them. What I'm really trying to say is, we're in control of how we feel. And there's a mythology around happiness. Talk to me about that, Tyrone. We didn't even plan that out, but talk to me about this mythology around happiness.
Yes, I love that you said that, because every workshop that I do, George, and I make a point in doing this in my workshop, is I start off with an activity, and in the activity, it essentially identifies the fact that we are 100% in control of our feelings, right? When we allow outside or external factors to affect our feelings, what we're really doing is we're giving up, or we're relinquishing power to an external factor, whether that's a person, place, or thing, whatever it is, we're relinquishing our power. And I think that over time, society has taught us our happiness is in people, places, or things, buying the next, whatever, wearing Jordans, whatever the case may be. I think that has been propaganda for so long in our society that forces us to think that, okay, this is really what happiness is, this car, this house, this relationship, whatever it is. But in fact, like you just said, we are 100% in control and responsible for our own happiness. And to give that away is to relinquish your power.
You know, I'm looking up the song because I want to tell you what the song is, but I can't, I was trying to find it real quick while you was talking. And who made, Surface. Okay, I got it. Surface song, Only You Can Make Me Happy, is a lie.
Yes. Ooh, propaganda, man. I'm telling you, they sell us dreams. They will.
Right. Only You Can Make Me Happy is a lie, right?
Here's the funny part too, George. Think of how many people grew up listening to that song and really done internalized it, right?
Right.
My happiness is external, and that's again where our society kind of trips us up and messes us up.
Yeah, and I was thinking because it's a good, only you
can
make
that be
me
happy.
We got
only you.
Yeah, keep your day job. But anyway, let's see. Listen, no, I think we gotta flip that. We gotta say, only I can make me happy.
Yeah.
Like you said,
100%.
You're in control of your happiness. And so what other questions do you get from your audience around relationships and some of the myths, some of the realities? What's the number one, like the last few weeks, what's the number one question you've been getting?
I'd say like the number one question I've gotten since I've started this entire process, even before the podcast, is like, okay, how do I know my relationship is going to last? Or how do I know I'm involved in a lasting relationship? Mm-hmm. And over time, I've developed these 5 elements I would call to a lasting relationship, so to speak. And the 5 elements include, number 1, trust, right? Mm-hmm. So trusting or having the ability to trust anybody is the foundation of any relationship, in my opinion. The second thing, George, is communication, right? When we talk about communication, I like to break it down because in a lot of cases, we think communication is us just telling somebody or talking at somebody, when in fact, communication is dialogue, right? If you're looking for that true communication, that's not only us talking back or talking to our partner, but being able to hear what they're saying, internalize what they may need, and adapt and adjust as necessary. The third thing I'll say is knowing your partner's love as well as their apology languages. So we hear about love languages and knowing your partner's love language a lot, but we don't hear a lot about apology languages. So I try to direct people towards apology languages because it's cool to know how to love on somebody.
Yeah, I want to hear that.
You better know how to say sorry.
Well, let's talk about that, right? Because the hardest thing for many of us to do is to admit that we're wrong. Mm-hmm. And those of us who have been married a long time, have this perception that only one person can be wrong in the relationship. Okay? Hey, Tyrone, let's get in some trouble right now. Let's get some trouble. Let's get into some trouble, man.
I see where you're going.
So what's the apology language for all of us? Okay, not just one.
See, it's 5 of them technically.
Okay,
but the one that is you cannot fail at all is genuinely repenting. Right. Okay. So that's apologizing.
Accountability.
Yes.
I am sorry for whatever that is that I did. Yeah.
Yes.
And absolutely. Name the thing.
Be specific too, boy. Don't say whatever that thing is.
Hey, Tyrone, you know what you did. You know what I said. What are you apologizing for? Oh, go ahead.
Listen, man, I'm telling you, that's how that'll keep you on the couch, fellas. I promise you.
Listen. And you're talking about if you want a relationship to last. Number 2, apology language. Number 2, apology language.
The second apology language. So you want me to go through all 5?
I love to. We need help because this is serious. This is a lot of people. Tyrone, people are glued right now. They got their pen out.
Yes, sir.
So what we gonna try next?
Knowledge. So we got genuinely repenting.
Yes, right? genuinely repenting. Yes.
Expressing regret. right? So expressing the fact that you regret that whatever you did, you'll regret that it caused them to feel how they feel. And again, let's be specific. Name exactly what it was, brother. Do not beat around the bush. Don't beat around the bush on that one. The third one would be accepting responsibility. So very similar to that accountability. Hey, baby, I'm sorry. I know that I did this. That's my fault. I apologize about that. The next one, we would be asking for forgiveness, right? So it's sorry, baby, I messed up in this way or the shape. What?
You could do all
that's
that.
That's a whole nother level.
Yes,
that's a whole nother level because go ahead.
No,
I know where you're going. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying you could even say all of those things, but then to ask for forgiveness, is very powerful because it's also acknowledging, but also giving that person, now I've asked you to forgive me. Now will you, right? Because now you got, because with the forgiveness is a release. You can't bring that thing up again. Okay. Hey.
I knew where you were going, and that's what it is, right? So it's like, okay, with the forgiveness, but it's also another key point to that, George. But you have to get to a space where you're vulnerable to really understand this, though.
Right.
And that's when I ask for forgiveness, I'm entrusting in you to forgive me, right? And that's key too. Like I have to trust you to forgive me and not bring this up 6 months down the line where we out to dinner and it's like, oh baby, remember that time that right? Because when those type of things happen in relationships, it's like a bombshell. It's like, oh shoot, like you said you was over it, you really not over it. Now what do I have to? Now I have to decipher in the back of my mind what you really kind of forgiven and what you not forgiven. But once I say, can I get your forgiveness, and you say yes, and we move forward from that point, that's very powerful in a relationship.
Yeah. Is that all 5?
Nope. The last one is unconditional acceptance, right? The last one is
who's got to accept who?
Whoever is. Oh, you're talking about within the apology languages. Making restitution was the last one within the apology.
Okay.
So making the restitution, right? So getting something for the fact that you messed up. So by usually like purchasing a gift, something along those lines, flowers.
Now let me ask you this: in a heterosexual relationship, right? Male, female. Who's responsible to do what? Because what you described seems like it's all about the man doing all of that.
Absolutely not. It goes both ways. And if we're really talking about a lasting relationship, then it got to go the other way, right? Because then isn't the expectation, we can't really feel like men.
Isn't the expectation that we do all of that though? And
I think it is absolutely society-wise, absolutely.
We got to do that all the time.
Y'all but that's where we mess up, George. That's where we mess up. Where it's like, now the relationship feels one-sided, right? It's like, why am I the only one apologizing? Why am I the only one making restitution?
And I made a point of saying heterosexual relationship. I guess it doesn't. I was really specifically talking about men and women in relationships is what I was talking about. But obviously, people who are in same gender relationships, issues pop up. Right.
It's across the board, man.
It's across the board. Whether it doesn't really matter what your gender identity is, because these issues pop up in all relationships.
Absolutely.
Wow, Tyrone, this is pretty good. Now, did you finish your list? Because I got stuck in apology. I got stuck in apology, and I had to start because that kind of hit me a little bit.
I definitely I know how it goes, man, and I'm happy you brought it up, George, because again, we could take the gender roles out of it.
Right.
There can't be an expectation in a lasting relationship for one person to always be doing the apologizing, one person to always be doing the loving, because then that relationship becomes overwhelming to that one person that's doing everything. And whether they know it or not, they're going to have a breakdown at some point in time, right? That's the point of a relationship, having that balance. But my fourth element or key element to a lasting relationship would be the ability to shift with the ever-changing dynamics that come about in the world, right? So
the world,
when I say ability in the world, in your world, anywhere, right? Because in every relationship, things are going to change, right? Whether you're going to start off from dating to being engaged to now being married to having kids, all of those are shifts and changes within the dynamic of your relationship. And having parents come involved or get involved in a relationship, all of those things are different external dynamics to a relationship. Having the ability to shift with those dynamics or adapt and adjust, if you will, to those dynamics. I've seen that help out with lasting relationships for sure. And then the unconditional acceptance that I brought up a little earlier, that's the last thing, right? We always talk about, or I shouldn't say we were taught that unconditional love, that's the way to go. I'm not against unconditional love, but I have my theories on unconditional love. And to make a long story short, I always tell people, think about the person that you love most over time in history, person that you would die for, you love. And then I would tell them to think about a time in which you didn't get annoyed with them, or was there ever a time where you got annoyed or frustrated with them? People would be like, yeah, of course, right? That breaks the myth to me of unconditional love. Instead of that, let's focus on unconditional acceptance. And unconditional acceptance is accepting people for who they are, but having an understanding that they're working to be the best people that they possibly could be. So those are my 5 elements that I always bring up in talking about lasting relationships.
And the number one question, I think I asked this before, what are some other key questions that people ask you in the Quality of Love podcast?
The narcissist thing is you really taking off. That's big. So I get a lot of questions centered around, okay, is this guy or girl a narcissist in the relationship?
Right, we
Here are the
talked about
behaviors
that.
they're displaying. So I get a lot of those questions. And then questions about, am I ready for marriage? Here's the steps that we've taken in our relationship. Do you think we're ready for marriage? And then I'll answer that question.
How do you answer that question? Because how do you know? I mean, that's really subjective, right? It's the people who are involved and whether they feel that commitment is ready. You got people who've been together 10 years and get married, and you got people who've been together 10 minutes and get married.
Those Vegas weddings, man.
Right. And I mean, there are people who get married after a month, 2 months, 3 months. I'm thinking the difference between engagement and getting married, right? We were engaged for 18 months, but it was because she was going to school. And so we decided we're going to get married after you finish your school. So we literally got married the week after she got her degree.
That's timing right there.
Right. We looked at the date. Okay, graduation this day, wedding next day. So it was crazy. It was a crazy time. But it was a year and a half after that's how we decided to do it. So who knows? So what do you say? What do you say to people?
Like you said, just what you said. You know when you're ready, man. Marriage and being ready for that level of commitment is I don't personally think it's something that somebody can tell you, right? And you're married, I'm married. Nobody told me I was ready to get married. It was like, oh, okay. Like it was a feeling. It was a feeling where I'm like, yeah.
How did you know you were ready? What happened? What did you do? What made you? I don't know. Did you do the get down on the knee?
No, I didn't do the old school formal. My wife, she would have knew all about that. I had to surprise her. But first, how I knew I was ready, I kid you not. One day I was doing something in the kitchen, right? And so we're in the. She was in the living room. I was doing something in the kitchen, and she's like, "Oh, what are you doing in there?" And I told her, I'm like, "I'm doing this." And she's like, "No, you're not. I bet you're doing this." And it was something else. It was literally what I was doing. It was pouring a bowl of cereal. She was like, I told her, "Oh, I'm putting the dishes away," or something like that. And she was like, "No, you're not. I know you're pouring a bowl of cereal," before I even poured it, right?
Right.
So I'm like, oh shoot, like that was kind of a transparent moment. Like this girl, like she really know me. Like, and beyond that, it was also just feeling safe with her. I think that was really big for me, feeling safe with her and feeling like I can be completely vulnerable. And that was like, for me, that was bing, it was it. It was epiphany.
Say more about that, because I think that is something that men especially have. Well, let me ask you a different way. Is that something difficult for us to say, that we feel safe with somebody or that we feel vulnerable? But that's truly what it is, right?
That's really what it is.
I feel like, wow, I can be 100% and put it all there.
All there. And I think that, again, I know we talk a lot about, we've spoken a lot about society, but I think that's one of the things too, where we've grown up, especially if you're coming from a marginalized community, coming from certain circumstances, like we've grown up being so tough. We've grown up in a lot of cases, having to put our defensive walls up because, like you have to. And coming from those areas, because if you do show vulnerability at an early age, it's perceived that that's weakness, right? And people will attack that. So I think that if we're really being honest, to be vulnerable within a relationship is the best feeling in the world. Like, to be completely yourself within a relationship is the best feeling in the world. So as we work our way towards that, I think that we need to communicate it more, right? Just like we're having this conversation about vulnerability, that's important. And it's important for men, especially, to know that it's okay to be vulnerable, at least to one person. Like, one person can see all of you.
Yeah.
It's cool.
How did that scare you when you figured out?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. 100%. It was, whoa, we getting deep tonight, boy.
Hey, Tyrone, this is what I do.
Yes, this is what it is. This is it. But no,
Well,
absolutely. I say that the first year and a half with my wife, who eventually transitioned into my fiance, I was petrified every day.
The other way, fiance transition to your wife.
Transition to wife. Sorry about that. Good catch.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I said, wait a minute, what we doing here?
Yeah, you talk about getting in trouble tonight, boy. But no, that space scared me. It really did. It made me petrified on a daily basis. But what I realized, George, is that I knew what that other feeling felt like. Like, I knew what it felt like to have my defenses up. I knew what it felt like to not be able to be completely vulnerable with somebody. So I doubled down on that feeling. I'm like, okay, this is not comfortable, but over time, I'm hoping that I will become comfortable with it. And ultimately I did.
And how did you then navigate your boys? Because, you know, how did that play into, you know, this I'm scared with her, but I got to show them something else. And so how did you navigate that?
Early on, it was very much that, right? It was like, I could be vulnerable with her, but when I come to my boys, we watching football, we doing turn. Yeah, I mean, it was very much that. But over time, I realized that it's okay to be vulnerable around the right people, right?
The right people, yeah.
Around the right people. So now I look at it, George, like, okay, if I can't be vulnerable around you, or if I share an aspect of my life that may cause me to be vulnerable and you're not receptive to it in a manner that I feel like, again, will protect my energy, then you're probably not somebody that I should be around or spend a lot of time around. Because I think that as men, we have to wear masks especially as Black men. In some situations and scenarios, we have to wear masks that causes us to hinder our authentic self sometimes. So if I can't come home and let my guard down, or if I can't come around you to your house as my friend and let my guard down, then that's probably not a relationship I want to invest too much energy
in. All right. The Quality of Love podcast.
Yes, indeed.
Wednesdays on your favorite platform.
All of them.
Tyrone, we'll have you come back and talk about DEI another time. As I said, DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, but he is the director of that at the Elmcrest Children's Center. And of course, you know what? It's pretty good to talk to a positive, affirming brother, young brother. There's hope. There's still hope. I just want this is a Black man talking about healthy relationships. I want y'all to see this brother and see this sisters, that it is possible, right? Oh, man, before I let you go, Tyrone, maybe I'll give you this question, because I asked this on my show last week. I asked whether I was in a group of women, and what was their age range? I would say they're the same age range as the people in your podcast. Okay.
Okay.
And they want to know, where are all the good unmarried?
Gotta throw that unmarried one out
right.
There,
man. Uncommitted. Single. Like, I had to do all of those three things. Uncommitted, unmarried, single men. Where do they find them in the queues? Because there's a feeling and a perception, Tyrone, and I know you get this question. So how have you answered that? Where do they find that category of brother in the age range of the people who are in your podcast, 35 plus?
The first thing I would say is stop looking at the men that you've always looked at, right? Because that's the biggest barrier to any type of real relationship, right? Because in a lot of cases, it may be subconscious, but now I'm bringing it to your conscious. So you can't say you didn't know. We just go after the same person, right? We go after the same person, what they look like, a tall man or a short woman with a nice body, whatever it is. Like, that's our image of what we think a good relationship would be, or what we think we would look like in a good relationship, when in fact it's usually the opposite that works out in most cases, in lasting relationships, that is, right? Because you need relationships are about counterbalance, right? You need somebody that kind of counterbalances your characteristics, your traits, and brings you more to center. And that's where excuse me, I would start, right? The very first place I would start. Stop going to those places that you always go to. If you go to the club, try church. If you go to church, try to not the club, but the bar. Try the bar. Try the bar or something like that. Something that's mellow. But no, we have to stop like always saying that, and when we're only, like women especially, saying, oh, there's no good men out here, there's no good men, where we're only looking at the same type of person or same template of a man, and not trying to switch it up a little bit.
All right. So listen, if you're listening to this show right now, if you're watching on YouTube, here's what I ask you to do. So where have you been looking? And I want you to go somewhere else and see if that somewhere else that you look is better than the place that you've been looking, right? Okay.
Just try it.
So let's try that. And then let us know. So, okay, I went over here. And the other thing is in the Syracuse, there's a lot of opportunities for engagement intellectually, musically, whatever your interests are. And so also, if you're looking for people who are interested in the things that you're interested in, show up at those places where you think that's going to happen. I would say that. And book clubs, things of that nature, which you would never think, but hey.
You gotta try something different, man. If you really want it, what do they say? If you want something different, you have to try different things, man.
You got to try different things. And what they call insanity is the definition of doing the same thing, looking for a different outcome. Okay. So that's what they call that. Tyrone Dixon, The Quality of Love, on Inspiration for the Nation. Hey, Tyrone, we really loved having you on the program.
Appreciate it, George. Anytime.
Inspiration for the Nation.